Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. You are here for one reason only, and that's a brand new episode of Major Previews. This time, looking deep into the comic book solicitations for our favorite picks for August of 2024. We're a little late, but better late than never. Comic books are always, they're fine wine. They just get better with time, and that allowed us to expertly pick our choices for August. I'm loving comic books right now. There's a bunch of different stories that I'm super excited that are going on concurrently. Certain things that have been announced to be coming up. We've been talking about stuff like Absolute Power. They're doing is it the Absolute Universe? The
Yep.
the Absolute Universe that's coming soon, all the wrinkles and twists and turns in the Ultimate Universe that I'm now privy to, picking up some of the comics that we have been mentioning months ago, and going on these incredible rides. It's been a hell of a time. We're about at the 3/4 mark of this year. So it's been quite interesting to see how these publishers have been kicking out some awesome content. But I'm gonna go ahead and let you pick for the people. What should they be looking at and looking out for this August
Well,
when it comes to
it's
comic
going.
books?
There's a lot. There's a lot to choose from. Absolute Power, like you said, is rocking and rolling. The Energon universe, the Geiger universe, the Unnamed universe, all that stuff is still kicking butt. And to top it all off, we're in the midst of a yet another, which some people might groan at that, but it's been exciting so far. But this new From the Ashes era of the X-Men. And my first pick is going to be Uncanny X-Men #1. Why? Because of two names, Gail Simone and David Marquez. Gail Simone basically came out of retirement to do this book. She's also jumped on a couple DC books. She went on hiatus for whatever the reason it was. She retired, kind of, sort of,
Hmm.
and it seems like the big publishers were able to pull her out of retirement by saying, "Hey, look, we're gonna give you Uncanny X-Men." I think DC is giving her some of the Absolute Power books that are coming. I think she's doing some of that. So, and this is Gail Simone. Gail Simone is a recent high talent creator. I mean, some would even consider her already a legend. I don't think she's at quite that level yet, but she has put out a tremendous amount of good stuff in her career, and giving her the opportunity to be, I believe she's going to be the first female writer for Uncanny X-Men, ongoing writer. I don't even know if a woman ever has written an issue of Uncanny X-Men. So here they're handing her this book, Uncanny X-Men, to tell what looks like it's going to be a very interesting story coming out of the Krakoa era. She's
Hmm.
got a hell of a team. This Uncanny roster is definitely a roster most of us are familiar with. We got Rogue, we got Wolverine, we got Nightcrawler, we got Colossus, we got Gambit, we got Psylocke or Quanon, I believe. Uh, Jean Grey, I believe, is going to be featured possibly in this along, and even it seems like some other familiar characters are going to be popping in and out of this book, and it's going to be a book that's completely free of everyone's favorite Charles Xavier.
Oh,
Spoiler,
Charles.
spoiler, spoiler, spoilers. If you guys don't realize by now, Charles Xavier is locked away after the events of the Krakoan Age, and now the X-Men have split into not just two, but three premier teams. We'll be
Yep.
talking about that. We'll be talking about that third premier book that's going to be coming out in September. But there are also many other books, but they're going to be the three main books. There's going to be regular X-Men, which has already come out. I believe it's up to issue #3.
Yep.
Uncanny X-Men #1 is dropping this month. A couple of others, Phoenix has come out, NYX has come out. But next month we're going to also get Extraordinary X-Men, and that's going to be a whole another fun story featuring a lot of fun characters doing very different things that we have seen in the past. But Uncanny X-Men is going to be dealing with how the team goes back to basics
Okay.
while embracing this new era of
Right.
which some people might say again kind of I'm a longtime X-Men reader. Some things seem new, and it's just they're doing this again, right? We've had a Charles Xavier list team before, but never because he's locked up. you know,
Right.
and not coming out of this legendary era of this Krakoan era that we just came out of, right? I mean, I don't know a lot of people that genuinely just hated the Krakoan age. So to know that it's over, we're going back to more familiar times, knowing that Chuck is locked up and going on this new ride with this again, Gail Simone, David Marquez, two great names. I'm excited to see what they bring. There are a couple spoiler images out there. And so you can definitely hop on and check out if you wanted to see that. And it's the first issue. Check it out. I see nothing wrong with just at least checking it out. You might read the first issue and go, this ain't for me. You might look at it and go, wow, this is a ride I want to continue and keep it going.
Yeah, I like Gail Simone a lot. She's a great modern voice in the world of comic books. Like you were saying, she's fairly new, but she has tackled on some very monumentous books. I was doing some research on the side here. Yeah, she went on a bit of a hiatus, but she wouldn't consider it like quitting. Like articles were coming out like, "Oh yeah, she quit comics," and she was
Mhm.
like, well, nothing really excited her. They wanted her to do like game related things or novels and stuff, and nothing really, you know, got her excited like this book did, and I can see why. And I've been very cautious about the post Krakoan era because of how cool Krakoa was. But the creatives behind it are giving me a bit of confidence,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that they're able to take the ball further as Hickman did with his work there. What I like about Gail as well is that she is very social media savvy. So we follow her as part of Comic Book Click, and she's constantly posting ideas, polling the fans about how they feel about certain relationships between certain X-Men characters, who they would like to see. You could tell that matters a lot to her.
Yeah.
Not only it has to be a hard road to go down, where you're simultaneously at the mercy of the fan, right? You have to maintain a level of status quo, but also pave new ground. That can't be easy, especially with a team that's 60
No.
years old. You know,
Heck yeah.
um, but Gail is one of those writers that has affection for the people that she writes about. I think about how she dove herself into like Jessica Jones and stuff when she did was it Aliases or the one with the different you know what I'm talking about, right? Like all the
Yes,
different
yes,
Jessicas.
yes, yes. Yeah, that
I
just
can't
came
remember
out
if it was
recently.
Aliases or
It came out
Alters or something like
that
that.
came out. It was like yeah, it was like the Jessica Jones variants. Yes, I
Yeah,
think it was just
variants,
called
variants. Yeah, it's
variants.
called
There you go.
variants. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, 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 yeah. So that take it's a level of care. It's not just like oh, I vaguely understand this character. Let me just get them to the next issue. And so yeah, I have a lot of respect for her. And I was wondering which one of these X-Men titles I would probably gravitate towards more towards, and I think it would be this one. I know Jed McKay's on regular X-Men,
X-Men.
right?
Hmm.
Regular
Yeah.
original at
Right.
recipe X-Men,
Just
and
just
then
X-Men.
Eve Ewing
Either yeah.
is on Exceptional.
Extra. Is it exceptional or extraordinary?
Might be
Hmm.
Extraordinary. You might have it right.
Yeah. You know what's funny is exceptional. Exceptional sounds like it might be right though. And you are right. It is exceptional, not
Okay,
extraordinary.
okay,
So good
okay,
man,
okay,
good man, good man.
okay. Is there someone else in Marvel Extraordinary, or am I getting that wrong?
I think at one point there may have been an extraordinary X-Men book,
Okay, yeah.
you know. But yeah, so Uncanny X-Men, y'all. Pick it up, check it out. It's a first issue. Let's see where it goes. What's your first pick for the month of August?
My all my picks except probably one are a bit adult. I'll say
Ooh.
I'm getting spicy in the month of August, and just to hop on what you were talking about when it came to X-Men, I'm gonna go ahead and reveal that my first pick is Wolverine Revenge #1, August 21st, 2024. It'll be coming out. And again, I've told you that a lot of my blind spot is with Logan, Sir Logan here. I've read more since our last conversation, but it was the creative team behind this that grabbed me. Jonathan Hickman and Greg Capullo. Greg Capullo is somebody who, I got into when I started to read the Batman series that came out post
It was a new
Flashpoint,
50,
New
the new
52.
52. Hmm.
Yeah. So I read all of that, and it colored so much of how those characters look especially angular in my mind. But absolutely loved his artwork. When you think about the stuff that they were able to do with like Court of Owls and stuff, absolutely amazing. And that was him and Scott Snyder, who's also a big idea man, sort of kind of
Yeah.
like Jonathan Hickman. So it's interesting to see these two pair up. When it comes to that, Hickman is also somebody that I've seen gush about these characters. When we covered the Grant Morrison's New Mutants, he's on there talking about how transformative that book was for him, and then basically, like we were just talking about with Gil Simone, how he was able to dribble that ball, get the pass, 20 years later from Morrison to then do the stuff in Krakoa. And now we have this story, Wolverine Revenge, and basically they're going to pit Wolverine against a cadre of foes who will turn his world upside down. He's been beaten, he's been bloodied, and Logan only has one thing on his mind: revenge. This is a prestige miniseries and is set to have a red band version, if I'm not correct.
Yes. Yes.
So that, yeah, I mean, come on, like one of the most prolific artist of our era who's done amazing work across like every big company that there is. And then Jonathan Hickman, who's been a godfather of this era of X-Men, like hands down, tackling the most popular X-Men in the history of of the franchise, quite possibly. A man who's one half of the reason the movie made $1 billion in Wolverine. It all just is too perfect. It's too perfect. And then the idea that it gets to be a bit more bloody than the usual fare is something I'm looking very much forward to. But I think the thing that has me the most interested is that it is a miniseries. Like it's not something that they have to like find the heart of. It's like, no, you know what the story you are gonna tell. You know it. You got
That's
it.
right. That's
And
right.
let's
That's right.
let's get to it and let's do it in the best way. But what do you think about old Wolverine Revenge? You should grab it
Oh, I
if
mean,
you haven't. By the way.
oh, yeah. No, this is definitely a book that if you're a fan of just good comics, you got to pick up, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan Hickman, Greg Capullo. Greg Capullo is one of those, I hate to say it like this, one of those few artists the last 30 years who's gotten better with time. This is a
Yeah.
guy who was part of he had done some Marvel work back in the I want to say like the 90s. He was part of that the people who revolutionized comic books by founding Image.
Hmm.
He was part of that. And then his work was good, but he was never known at that level of like a Todd McFarlane or a Jim Lee or even a Mark Silvestri. But
Hmm.
then a New 52 comes out, he does that Batman book, and it's just like, yo, he's putting out the best work of his career. And he's just continued to ride that out because he went on to do one of the Spawn books recently. And then
Yeah.
once he was done with that, now he's jumped over to Marvel. He's been doing a couple covers. His covers have been gorgeous. And he's doing this miniseries with Jonathan Hickman and then doing an ongoing, I believe he's doing the ongoing Wolverine book as well. That's going to be coming out. So, I mean, he's just riding high. And then to team him up with another superstar artist of Jonathan Hickman, who the guy, it's crazy to think that Jonathan Hickman, he has not been around for a very long time. This is a guy who's been writing
No.
comics maybe about 20 years now.
Yeah.
But yet, when you think of all the premier, at least Marvel characters, you think Avengers. Oh yeah, he probably has had the best Avengers run of the last, say, 30 years.
Yeah.
X-Men, just totally redefined them. He's doing Ultimate Spider-Man. Probably the best Spider-Man book to come out in the last 20 years. And now he's going to do this Wolverine run.
Oh, don't forget Fantastic Four.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I skipped Fantastic Four. My apologies.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Fantastic
But yeah,
Four. Yeah.
right. So I mean, this is a guy who whatever he touches is usually gold. So now he's going to tell this Wolverine revenge story with the superstar artist, and it's a mini series, so it's going to get to the point. It's only going to be 5 issues, and it's him going up against like his greatest rogues and doing it in the most bloody fashion. I'm hyped for this. This is going to be a mini series that I guarantee is going to be at the front of most comic book stores when people come in and go, "Hey, I want to read a Wolverine series. Should I read? Here you go, Wolverine. Wolverine Revenge. Bam, here you go."
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
this is definitely be I'm going to be picking up and I'll be picking it up the Red Band because the Red Bands have been fun. It's something that Marvel's been doing a lot lately with Blood Hunt, now with
Yeah.
this. There's other books that are gonna be doing this Red Band thing where you're getting a little
Even
bit
one on
more.
my list,
That's right,
which
and there's gonna be more
just
of this.
teasing a little
There's
bit of
gonna be
that.
more of
But
this. That's
yeah,
it.
it's an interesting, with DC putting their foot down with Black Label, right? That's supposed to be their more adult sort of line of comics. It's cool that Marvel is at least playing around with the idea of growing with their audience. And yeah, you talk about somebody who has complete affinity for the Marvel universe. That is Jonathan Hickman. We just talked about all the um, sort of A-list talent or A-list characters, teams that Marvel has, and he's elevated each and every one of them. And then
Yep.
for Capullo, like when I always think about him, I always think about the guy who is like doing the backups for Spawn, like helping Todd get that book out,
Right.
for years, and then kind of just like getting his own sort of style with those capes and those, all those necro beings and demons and stuff,
Exactly.
and how he was able to then move all that over. So yeah, this just seems like one of those matches made in heaven. I was looking back over here. Yeah, bro. Quasar, 1991 to 1992, he worked on. X-Force, 1992 to 1993. And
Right.
eventually, after 93 is when Image is born. And
Right.
thus, he goes over. But I'm happy he's getting the big checks. I'm happy my boy's making the good money because it's worth it.
That's
All,
right.
all of his stuff is worth it. I believe they even came out with several art books just for that Batman run,
Yeah.
specifically to
Yeah.
highlight some of the amazing work that he's done. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But what else are you looking forward to this month?
Well, I'm going back to the well of classic characters. We had Uncanny X-Men, and for my next pick, I'm going with Amazing Spider-Man number 950. This
Ooh,
Amazing
yo, yeah,
Spider-Man
950 already?
950, 50 away from a
Damn,
thousand. Woo!
damn.
I know that's the legacy numbering. The actual number of the issue, I think, is like 58.
Six. Throwing something
It,
random.
yeah, yeah. This legacy numbering has been annoying. I understand why Marvel started doing it, but for classic fans, it's been a
Can
little. It's
I'll
been
say this. This is not controversial at all, but I think that part of my lack of enthusiasm to cover Miles is because of this ridiculous, constant
oh, the constant refresh.
Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales number one, Miles Morales
Right.
Spider-Man number one, Spider-Man colon Miles Morales number one. I'm like, what? I like the man. Can you just help me get to where I gotta go with
And
it?
especially and that it really sucks for new readers, right? Because a lot of
Yeah,
new readers who are being turned on to this character from, say, movies like Across the Spider-Verse and whatnot, they go, "Oh,
definitely.
I want to read Miles. Where do I start?" And you're like, where do you start?
Yeah,
It can be
you
difficult. It
tell
can be
me.
difficult. Right. Like, the current Miles series has been going on for a while, so I would tell most people just to go there. Everything else was kind of short, like 12, 15 issues at most.
Yeah,
But it's Marvel. They like slapping number ones on things. But back to this. I'm excited to see. Right, it's Amazing Spider-Man number 56 of the current Zeb Wells run. Its total is 950 for the legacy numbering. And that's why I'm excited for it. And the Zeb Wells run has been controversial. It's been very
it
up, very
has.
down. Some people absolutely hate it. I know people who have stopped reading Amazing Spider-Man because of this run,
Is it because of Paul?
mostly because of Paul. That whole nonsense, him and Mary Jane. I definitely agree that that stuff is not very palpable.
Hmm.
but I'm a diehard Amazing Spider-Man collector. I've collected it through its peaks and valleys. And this is definitely overall, I will agree with everyone that this is definitely a valley of a run. This is definitely on the lower end,
Hmm.
especially because what sucks is when you have the opportunity to read Ultimate Spider-Man, it's like why do I want to read this? I get
Yeah,
it. The Ultimate
yeah,
Spider-Man is it's like Aaron Judge at the plate, home runs damn near every time, right?
every time.
But I have thoroughly enjoyed what he's done with Tombstone, and he's elevated Tombstone from this almost Robbie Robertson terrorist, like low key kingpin of a villain into a kingpin. I really enjoyed the crime war he just recently finished, and I
Hmm.
liked what it set up with the kingpin having to become the new kingpin of New York. in order to almost like save the soul of his daughter while at the same time preserving his own dignity, right? That whole so that was a lot of fun. And what 950's coming in the middle of is Tombstone now having to deal with Spider-Man directly because they were reluctantly made like he had to team up. It was like choosing which
Uh,
devil do you choose. It's like
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I
Lesser of
can
two
let these
evils.
right, and so that's what I liked about it, and I liked how like especially if this is like a 5 year spoiler at this point. In the very first arc, he tricks Spider-Man into helping him secure something by making him think he's already got it. And the
Hmm.
way he does it, the mind games that he plays with him, it was so great. And then how it ends, where everybody like, oh, like Spider-Man was just so infuriated. And now this is now 56 issues in, and it's just been this constant back and forth of him and Spidey playing these mind games. And now it's coming down to what looks like just going to be a brawl between Tombstone and Spider-Man. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this story goes. Because yeah, you could take away the Paul Mary Jane stuff, the rec rap stuff, the
That I
super
have
nat.
no idea about. I've
Yeah, yeah.
seen pictures of it, and it just keeps confusing me. The more I see of it, the more I get confused.
There are some people who swear that that's the best part of this run, but I'm like, I just take it away. I don't need it. Take it away. But if you like old school, like especially in the 80s and even the 90s when Spider-Man became that street level crime fighter where he was teaming up with like Night Thrasher and Moon Knight and the Punisher even, this is more of that. So if you like those
Okay.
crime stories, this is more of an extension of that. And I've really enjoyed this and where it's going. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun with regard to this, and this is also the like the end of Zeb Wells' run. So if those of you who want to see where it's ending to now see where it's going to go, because the end of this run is going to be very interesting. We'll be talking about that soon. If you guys have already heard about the 8 deaths of Spider-Man, it's going to be kind of interesting and seeing where how it go we go from this to that to what's going to be then who's going to be taking over the book from there. It's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of fun. So I would say the next year of Spider-Man is going to be very interesting.
It's one of those things where, when you have a run like this, people are going to remember how it ended. That's a big part about this is sticking that landing, and it's not an enviable task. It's something that how do you culminate everything that you've been working on to kind of hit a crescendo that everyone's going to end up being super in for. Again, it's going to be a hard task, but I think he's going to be able to nail it at least for his version of Spider-Man. And this seems to be like you said, a more friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And I think that the pressure, for good or for bad, is a bit more off because if you don't love this or don't love a specific issue of this, as you said, there is another very good Spider-Man book in the distance. Takes off a little bit of pressure. Takes off a little bit
A
of
little bit,
pressure.
little bit, little bit. So what do you got,
I'm
Don? What's your next pick?
I'm coming in hot. Shut up, threes. A five is talking because we got a five coming on to the Avengers. I'm talking about Avengers number 17. My girl Aurora Monroe has showed up. She's tired of all this madness. They should have put her on the Avengers a long time ago. When you think about all
They
the,
did. They
they
did.
did,
They
they did.
did. And but it was so poorly done.
Okay,
She joined the new Avengers, I believe.
okay,
It was during the Bendis run, and she
yeah.
joined for like 3 issues, where she basically just walked on, said, "Hi, I'm here." Maybe blasted one person and then was gone. It was pointless. It is really to the point where like I think that's why they're making such a big deal about this and why you're excited about it because I think that this is going to be the time that they stick the landing and give her a proper Avengers story.
Yeah, they make it definitive. You know, she's such a powerhouse of a character on paper. Just all the gravitas that Storm's always been able to have, and I feel like even lately they've been trying to raise her ranks amongst the X-Men,
Mhm.
show her as more of a queen, show her as more of this weather witch. There's more of a force of nature than anything else, and in this kind of tumultuous time post Krakoa, where they are trying to reposition the chess pieces on the board. it's good to know that she's still the queen. It's good to know that she's still looked at in high regard. That somebody in the editorial is like, we need to do something with her, keep her up, keep her involved, keep her front and center. And there's nothing more front and center than being a part of this now A-list team called the Avengers.
Yeah.
But seeing her on the cover of this and then seeing who makes up the Avengers, it looks like it's going to be a fun time dealing with a lot of the personalities that will be clashing in this, especially Thor. Like, how does Thor feel about another weather manipulator being on the team? All that stuff is interesting. And then they also have backup stories that they've been doing. Deadpool and Wolverine, a backup story called Weapon Extraction. This will be part 6 of that in this issue. So it'll be fun to see them put a new wrinkle into the status quo. They got to keep the Avengers as something they're constantly dribbling,
Hmm.
but this may be a 3-point shot in putting Aurora on the team. I'm often quite interested in how experimental these Avengers teams are. Like every writer gets on and they kind of trying to craft their own almost definitive version of the team, and the people that they choose is always super interesting. The
Hmm.
people that they're like, okay, we definitely need these people. So I'm just looking at this team and kind of trying to make up my mind about how Jed McKay feels about these sort of Avengers. But it'll be super interested to catch Avengers number 17, which comes out August 7th of 2024.
Yeah. No, I'm the Jed McKay. We've talked about him many times in the past, whether it's because of his Moon Knight run, this Avengers run, his recent Blood Hunt, which ended in a lot of fun ways. And now he's continuing his Avengers run, and I'm wondering, I'm hoping that this was mostly his decision to bring her onto the team to keep that, I guess, what do they like to say, synergy, to keep that
Yeah,
synergy going.
yeah.
And who better a character than to keep that going than the Weather Witch herself, Storm. And she's riding high right now, right? She was a major component of the Krakoan Age. I
Yep.
loved her as the Queen Regent of Arakko. She was a great character. She was even one of the cruxes to defeating
Nimrod.
Nimrod. Thank you. It was great when she rolled in. She literally drags Magneto out of hell and brings her and him to be the anomaly in the fight, right? Because Nimrod can't even predict her when when she shows up with Magneto at the end. It was like, whoa, whoa, whoa! I thought you're supposed to be on Morocco and he's supposed to be dead. So what is this? So that was a
Right.
great moment. And now to have her join the Avengers, and she's getting her own ongoing series
She
soon.
is.
So Marvel is really trying to put her out there, right? Especially not just that, in X-Men 97, seeing our girl blow up on X-Men 97, seeing her go through that period with no powers, and now she gets her powers back, and she comes back like waiting to she just the way she gets her groove back was such an amazing
Yeah,
moment. So to see her now getting elevated to this next level, it's a great step for Storm. And I comic readers, eat it up. That way she stays at that level, because they've tried this with Storm in the past. She's had miniseries in the past. She was even on the Avengers before. I don't know how Bendis dropped the ball on that, but let's keep her at this level, guys. So get
they're
these
giving
books.
they're giving her for her miniseries a 30-year-old Nigerian writer. So someone a bit more modern and someone who can tell the tales of Africa. So that's very
That was
interesting.
that voice. That's awesome. So yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's
yeah.
great. Good stuff.
I dig it. What's on your list?
Now for me, I'm gonna be jumping over to the other universe that a lot of people call DC. And for me,
How'd
it's
you end up over there? You get lost?
I kind of got lost. I will say this: keep reading Absolute Power, y'all. That Absolute Power stuff is amazing. I'm liking it. I'm not the biggest DC guy, but I'm gonna keep reading it. I'm enjoying it. All the tie-ins, that's up to you. If you're a Batman person, Nightwing person, Superman, I'm hearing
Hmm.
that stuff is mostly good. And what I'm liking is it's a short miniseries, and it's a big event, and it's the stuff that's going to be coming out of it looks amazing. But in the meantime, I'm going to be writing DC for August because they're telling an old school story, the story that got me mostly into DC the first time, which was Zero Hour. And now this is the 30th anniversary of Zero Hour, so I'm going to be picking up the Zero Hour #1 30th anniversary.
What a time.
Exactly, right? 30,
What a
30
time.
years, 30 years since Zero Hour, guys. Zero Hour was like the first major event after Crisis of the Infinite Earths. And this was DC's way of the first time, first of many times to come, to try to fix all the continuity glitches of that era. So they did Zero Hour, but Zero Hour, from Zero Hour comes, Kyle Rayner getting elevated to the premier Green Lantern. That's where the seeds of Jeff Johns' ideas for all the colors,
Yep.
the color spectrum comes from,
Emotional
which was
spectrum.
where the emotional spectrum, because what happens in that series is Hal Jordan goes nuts, but it turns out he gets infected with Parallax, which is the Yellow Lantern god, something like that. and and that infected him and drove him nuts. He destroyed a city. I forget which city exactly. And he just goes and he wants to redo the entire universe so that he can fix everything and, just make it the way he feels it should have always been. But at the time, it wasn't really established that he was infected. He went through his own hero's journey once again, and that led to the Jeff Johns run. But Zero Hour was such a fun event because it elevated so many lower tier characters like Damage, the Kyle Rayner, a Green Lantern. I believe even the Metal Men were involved, and
I
just
would
so
be
much fun.
surprised.
Right, so much fun stuff was happening during that time. And when I seen this initially solicited, I said, "Oh, this is just a cash grab. They're probably going to republish some issues or something." But it's not. They're actually going back into that world, and it seems like we're going to find out that maybe there's this other universe where the Zero
An
Hour
untold
universe is still
story.
going. An untold story. An
An untold
untold
story.
story. So many untold stories
So
out there,
many
guys.
untold stories. People need to start
You
telling these
know,
stories. This is, but is Zero Hour, if I'm not mistaken, is an event surrounding Parallax, correct?
yeah, it's Parallax, which that was Hal Jordan's
At
villain
the
name.
time, right? At the time, and Cal Jordan turning bad and being bad for as long as he was is a
Mhm.
huge moment in comic books in general. As you were talking, I'm just trying to like go in my mind if that had been done at that point yet. I don't
No,
think a member of the Avengers or the X-Men or whatever had completely turned evil and
well,
responsible for murdering, because he murdered like a whole bunch of people.
remember a girl by the name of Dark Phoenix?
She wasn't a villain though. I don't consider Jean a villain. She was more like a force of nature. She became wind, and the wind became a tornado. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. These things
More
just
like
happen.
more like a
These things just happen.
malevolent galactic storm, but
Yes,
okay.
Malevolent Galactic Storm. Where I feel like Parallax snapped what's his face's neck, Sinestro's neck. Like there was no.
Yeah,
He went and killed all the Guardians.
yes, he
He
did.
went over to O and killed all the Guardians. We're gonna tackle Emerald Twilight one of these days. I still think it's one of the most bonkers story when you think about it, like as him starting as a baby face when that story starts, and him recreating Coast City out of just willpower and
Yep.
because he's gone fucking
Yeah,
crazy. Like
just gone
all of
nuts.
that leads to this. And I don't know if I've ever gotten your take on it, but how do you feel about the whole like, oh no, Parallax was an element inside him. It wasn't actually Hal. How do you feel
I hated
about
that.
that?
I hated that.
Yeah.
I hated that because I was such a big Kyle Rayner fan that
Okay.
when they decided to just basically push Kyle to the side and bring back Hal, I was boo. I still boo it. I still boo it to this day. Hal is not my Green Lantern. He's just not. And to me, he's a jackass. As much as they love to make Guy Gardner out to be like this utter rude jackass, but at least he knows who he is. Like he's the guy who will roll him into a room and be like, "Yeah, I know I'm the jackass. Batman
Yeah.
deserved to punch me in the face, but I'm Guy. That's how I am."
He's a jock.
Hal, right? Hal is like the guy who he's the oblivious jock who just doesn't realize like, yo, nobody likes you, bro. You're this arrogant prick who rolls into the room and you think everybody should just listen to you. And it's like
Space cop.
you're a space cop. Yeah, like come on, man. Get out of
Yeah.
here. Where's Kyle? Where's Kyle?
Yeah.
Where's Kilowog? I'll take Kilowog over Hal Jordan, man.
That's interesting. That's interesting. But yeah, I wonder what sort of is hiding in the shadows of this untold story. What's hiding behind this Zero Hour? Because I do think that this is a very particular time in DC Comics, as you said, as they try to now restructure from one of their greatest crossover stories of all time that would then color in crossovers for every major publisher, and how they tackle their first big story. So yeah, I'll be checking out Zero Hour. I was surprised you were on the DC side. So that was pretty interesting.
Look,
And
I
yeah,
was there was there. I've told you throughout my comic collecting career, I have gone into the DC universe, and Zero Hour was a big one for me. Really, really was a big one for me. So I'm excited to go back to this world, and I wouldn't mind if, because DC is good at keeping those little pocket realities alive. If this sells well and they keep like a little Zero Hour line going, like they did a couple years ago with like the Earth 2 line and stuff like that, hey, I'm there for it.
they just got to put up a van with what is it, free candy. DC
That's
has
it.
to get people over on their side, and you don't want to end up on the wrong side. Like you don't want to end up, let's say, on a different planet than when you're normally from. That's what my boy. That's what
Mm.
happens to my boy, the Predator, when he goes one on one with the Black Panther in Predator versus Black Panther #1. Man, man, I'm so excited. I don't know why I'm so excited for this book. I just the imagery of it alone, the tech. It's to take a sentence from It's Always Sunny. It's just the implication. You just look at that cover and you just see the implications.
Right.
So much lore from both particular subsets of these. There's culture, there's lore, there's tradition on both sides of the Predator and Black Panther.
Right.
There's legacy that gets passed down. There's rituals, there's rites. All the idea that all of that is coming together in this is super exciting to me. Add in extraterrestrial weaponry, which they both have, right? When you consider vibranium came from a meteor, and
Right.
all that stuff that comes from there. Yeah, Benjamin Percy's on it. It's coming out August 21st. The penciler is Chris Allen. And basically, it says now the planet Earth lives on in Predator lore, a planet full of the most exhilarating prey one they could imagine. They could imagine, and the strongest weapons in the multiverse are in their sights. When a young predator with something to prove comes for Wakanda's vibranium, the Black Panther faces an enemy whose resources rival his own great nation. Who will prove to be stronger? The Benjamin Percy teams up with Stormbreaker artist Chris Allen to pit king against king in a bloody new series, and that also makes me smile that it's going to be bloody because it should. But yeah, bro,
Is there
this is like
is there gonna be a red band version of this?
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna see if I can if there is
Because
going to be.
this sounds like this would be a perfect red band comic.
What did you think when you first heard that this was gonna be a thing?
Honestly, Disney, if people smack talk about, oh man, the status of the MCU and the status of the Star Wars universe, but one thing Disney has been killing it with is the Aliens and Predator universes ever since they took them over. The movies Prey and just recently Alien Requiem,
Yeah.
and even the couple comic books that they've released now underneath the Marvel umbrella have all
Hmm.
been very, very good. The the what if story that they're doing in the Alien universe right now, written by Paul Reiser, who plays the Jackass character,
Oh
I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember,
yeah.
is really, really good. The Wolverine Predator stuff was fun. You got exactly what you wanted out of it, and now you're getting Benjamin Percy tackling this. I don't see how this isn't going to be just a fun ride at the very least, right? You're
Yeah.
getting two action-packed characters going head to head. One is trying to right, because no one invades Wakanda, nobody,
No.
right? Whether it's in the Ultimate Universe, this universe, no universe, the person who did the most damage to Wakanda was Submariner at one point, and Black Panther made sure to get him in the ass. So the
And
fact that
he
we're
also
getting
needed a what did you call it before, a malevolent cosmic storm.
right, Namor was possessed by he was part of the Phoenix Five. So
Yeah,
right, that's
yeah.
the only
So
reason
yeah,
that he even got over at that point. And now you got the Predator showing up because he blatantly wants to steal some Wakandan vibranium and some of their tech because he's trying to get over on his world. So
yeah.
he's showing up and thinking, "Oh, I'm just gonna invade. I probably have to smack around one of those Arnold Schwarzenegger guys." This ain't Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is
No.
this is T'Challa guy. All right,
Yep.
you don't just roll up into T'Challa's land. Or is it T'Challa or is it T'Chaka? Because this is
They keep saying the Black Panther. They've been very coy about that, so I'm
okay.
not
Because
a hundred
I don't
percent
know,
sure. I
I
think
don't know
he's
when.
rocking the cape, so that tells me so sometimes that it's not a boy, but who knows? Doo-doo.
I'm just curious as to when. I heard that. I know what you were trying to
I always do that.
do.
I always do that when I
But
talk
no,
about Wakanda.
this looks like it's going to be a fun story. Benjamin Percy knows how to tell a good action-packed, bloody story. He's done it with X-Force, with Wolverine, the way he
Yep,
finished
yep.
his Wolverine arc with the Sabretooth War. So
Gosh,
handing him Black Panther and the Predator, I really hope this shows up as a red band eventually. I don't see it solicited as a red band, but this should have been a red band book.
I also don't know. I also don't know how this works. I don't. But like, if we could ever like see this, I would really like to.
And that's what I'm saying. Come on, come on. At the very least, animate this.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know what I
look,
mean?
they did it. I mean, I guess because we're so think about like comic books and copyright and all that kind of stuff. But like, would it be any different than the tease of GI Joe and Transformers like that they did?
No, because
It,
Marvel has like all the rights to this stuff now. This
yeah,
isn't
yeah,
something that
yeah,
like they're borrowing for a minute. It's under
yeah,
the 20th century umbrella, which guess
yeah,
what is now Disney.
yeah.
It's all like
It's just like the Deadpool they just dealt with. All that stuff that they just dealt with in Deadpool and Wolverine were all 20th Century Fox meet
you know,
titles and
even
characters and
if
stuff.
like let's say this is like a what if season 4 thing. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Give it to me. Give it
yeah.
to us.
Oh, it'd be so it'd be so good. It'd be
Oh,
so damn good.
oh man. Oh yes, yes. Oh man.
What,
So,
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for. What are you excited for over there?
oh man, me now we're venturing off into my favorite things, my
Yeah.
indie books. I'm going off into people's childhoods, my childhood, maybe your childhood. I don't know
Hmm.
how much you read of it, but this Dynamite has been killing it with their I forget what you how we recruit, the properties that they've been buying up to produce books, whether it's Gargoyles, Thundercats, Space Ghost, and now they're coming out with Johnny Quest.
Johnny
Johnny Quest
Quest.
number one, right? A name that most people know, and but either I don't know. Did you watch it as a kid at all?
I've seen both. There was the OG Hanna-Barbera stuff, and
Hmm.
then they try to kind of like they try to like modernize him. Remember with the 3D graphics?
I thought that series was dope, man. I
I like that
love
theme
that one.
song. That
The
theme
theme
song was
song, dun
fire.
dun 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 dun. Oh man,
Yeah,
it was such a good
really, really
series.
good.
This is going back to the original series, which kind of made me hesitate because I was not as much of a fan of the original series. It was one of those classic one season shows, but back in the day when one season was, like 67 episodes.
50 episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
almost every day, every week, a new episode. So it's going back to that time period and the way the characters looked then. So that kind of made me hesitate. But then I saw a name. I saw this name. I saw the name Joe Casey. And Joe Casey has been killing it as of late. Joe Casey is one of those writers. He's a longtime writer. He's had an X-Men run. He's had an Alpha Flight run. He's written a lot of other books. He's worked on with Man of Action a lot. This is a man who knows how to write books. And just recently, he wrote Kneel Before Zod, which is a great miniseries that I
Yeah.
implore anybody here who likes Superman and wants to see the character that probably really should be the premier Superman villain, pick up Kneel Before Zod by Joe Casey. Fantastic miniseries. And he's also written, I believe you were talking about this on one of our shows not so long ago, Dutch and the wanna what's the
The
it's
Bloodsport 7 or whatever.
something like that, right? But which is blatantly young blood. It's blatantly young blood. But right,
Yeah.
he's writing these action packed books. He's flexing that old school talent, and he's bringing it out to Johnny Quest. So the art looks fantastic by Sebastian Pires. Paris. I'm probably butchering the name. I apologize,
Blood
but
Squad 7, sorry.
Blood Squad 7. There you go.
Yeah.
It's blatantly young blood, y'all. So
Yeah.
if you're a fan of the 90s young blood series, by most people, some people remember him very fondly, Rob Liefeld, but he's writing that book, which is basically young blood, and now he's writing Johnny Quest. and bringing back, Johnny Quest, Haji,
I'm
Bandit,
about to say, is
Dr.
Haji
Quest,
in there?
yes, Haji, Race Bannon. These are all classic characters that are now
That
being brought.
name,
So
bro, I'll never forget that name. Race Bannon.
it just come
Race
on, man. Race
Bannon.
Bannon. He's just come on. But what's fun is if anybody who loves the Venture Brothers, right? And I feel like a lot of people my age
Oh
or
yeah,
our
that's
age
this is just
love the
yeah,
Venture. The
yeah,
Venture Brothers is a mockery of Johnny Quest.
yeah. 100%.
Race Bannon is what's his name?
I space, but yeah, this is a one
You
for
know what I'm
one
talking
sort of
about.
parody. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So if you want to know the source material for all that parody stuff, then this is the book you want to be picking up. He's paying respect to the old series while at the same time bringing it fresh to the modern era. So
Wait,
the
I think a character like Johnny Quest does show up, named Action Johnny.
yes, yes, and yeah,
He's
he's like
rocking the black turtleneck and all
the black
that.
turtle, and he's totally tweaking out. He's
Yeah,
just tripping out. They do a great job in that show of just
that's hilarious.
making fun of that era, but Joe is not making fun of that era, right? This is
No,
the 60th year anniversary of the original animated series, so what a great time to bring it back and to bring it back with, like I said, with this superstar team telling classic stories of just those fun old school adventures. These guys, that it's almost like Indiana Jones, but the whole family, right? It's not just
yeah,
Indiana; it's the whole family. So, guys, I would highly recommend you try this out if you've been enjoying other stuff from Dynamite, like I have, like Thundercats, Space Ghost, and all those other books. Gargoyles, pick this stuff up.
yeah. And you talk about like one of the unique things about these kind of revivals in comic book form is that you already have your preconceived notion because you understand the medium, you understand the IP, right? But it can literally go anywhere. It can go anywhere. They can find a chest that has demons inside, and they all get possessed, and
Right,
they all have to then sword fight to the death. Like it can go.
right.
There's no. It's not retelling the story, and doesn't have to get anywhere. So that's why I like them kind of taking these characters and like I even think of how much. And obviously, this has been done in Legends as well. But since Marvel has acquired Star Wars, how much digital ink has been spilled in those comics to lengthen and strengthen the world building? Like Dr. Aphra, like all that that's going on over
Yep.
there, right? You understand, to make things that did not exist part of the lore. So it'd be very interesting to see what elements that he ends up introducing there.
Yep.
Um, my last two are a bit, what I will say, carnal. The my second to last is Werewolf by Night #1, the Red Band version of Werewolf by Night #1. The solicitation says Jack Russell has been trying to live a simple life, but in a deadly and dramatic wake of Blood Hunt, his life is about to be turned around in ways he never imagined, with new enemies hoping to extract a literal pound of flesh. Jack, unsure if he can be trusted around old allies and a lost love, the original Werewolf by Night is in for the fight of his life, and he is in it alone. This is by Jason Liu and Sergio Divalia. But I'm picking it up because it is explicit content, and it is Red Bad Edition. It's released August 14th, 2024. But yeah, I was aware of the IP Werewolf by Night. I actually got introduced to it the most with that little special spotlight that they did for the MCU. I like that there is this flavor of Marvel that is completely kind of pulpy, universal monster. I like that corridor that exists in the very, very big house that is Marvel Comics. And we're getting into Halloween season. I know a lot of people like to celebrate Halloween immediately after Christmas, but we're getting closer and closer. And the Red Band first edition is already sold out for Werewolf by
Wow.
Night. People have already been picking this kind of stuff up. So I just want to see the continuation of Jack Russell. I had a dog named Russell who was a Jack Russell as well. So I have my own many things. But literally, this was one of those judge a book by its cover kind of things. Like I'm looking at the books on my list, and I'm like, awesome art, awesome creative team, awesome place to start the book, awesome way to introduce that character, and this was like blood. I was
Nice.
like, I was like blood and gore and monsters. That's why I'm picking Werewolf by Night, and I think a lot of people will be picking it up for that. I don't think there's a lot of diehard. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but I don't think there's a lot of diehard Jack Russell fans out there. So there will be. I think the word of mouth of how gritty this is going to color in a lot of people's interest into this book. But what do you think about the whole Werewolf by Night thing?
Well, he's a classic character. I mean, a fan favorite character that made his first appearance in Werewolf by Night was Moon
Yep,
Knight.
yep,
You know, that's one of those sought after issues. So, I mean, for a long time, horror was the way to go in Marvel and in comics in general.
yeah,
And then because of like stuff like the Comics Code, horror got all jacked up. It had to be tamed down. You couldn't show a lot of different things. A lot of publishers went out of business because of that. But and then characters like Werewolf by Night, they had to play in like a gray area. But now this is a perfect time because Marvel dropped the Comics Code years ago. Now we got Blood Hunt, and I believe this is coming out of Blood Hunt because
yes,
one of the spoilers that happened at the end of Blood Hunt was that now all vampires can be in a day. So I believe now Jack Russell is going to be hunting vampires, kind of maybe helping out because now vampires are a perpetual threat. So what better time than to have this classic character of Jack Russell come back, right? He's probably gonna be probably part of his issues and be hunting down these vampires. And Jack did recently get a highlight on that fantastic
Spotlight. Yeah.
spotlight on Werewolf by
Hmm.
Night, that one episode or even like short movie,
He's just hanging
which
out now with Man Thing somewhere.
so do something with him. I'm happy at least in the pages of Marvel Comics, he's showing up. He's getting his own book, a red band to kind of get people who may not necessarily be a fan or don't know who he is. What better way to get people, right? Look, it hooked you. You didn't care about the creative team. You were just like, Werewolf by Night, red band, woo, horror, blood, gore, perfect
Yeah,
time, right? And if this hits, and if it seems like it's hitting so far, keep it going. You know, maybe get him another spotlight in the MCU. Hopefully, maybe he shows up in other things, and also just in general, get another good book. Get a new creator. Put another person on the map. Jason Liu, a name that maybe you're hearing first on our show, right? This is
yeah,
he's not a Bendis, he's not a Snyder, he's not a Greg Capullo, but maybe he will be, right? Because everybody
100%.
starts somewhere. Everybody
Yeah.
starts somewhere. You know, Jed McKay, who was not a household name for me, he started on Black Cat books.
Did he?
And yeah, and look at him now. So everybody starts somewhere.
I also think it's an incredible, like, if they did see success with Blood Hunt, and you're still trying to satiate that taste for blood,
Right.
you can go right to something like this, which I think is important as well. I'm trying to. Oh, Edge of Spider Verse. Is that where I'm trying to think what the first thing I read from Jed McKay was. But yeah, you talk about somebody who's done their work in the trenches. He definitely has.
Definitely has. So, but my last pick is not somebody who is who's he probably did do his work in the trenches. Everybody starts in the trenches, right? But this
Hmm.
is I'm still going to be riding that horror train with you and going back to the well for one of my favorite creators, for Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. They
Ah.
have a new book coming out to keep their blood, their all right. Is it
I was like,
called?
I was like, they do a blood oath? What's
No,
going on here?
no. I'm sorry, not blood, but bone. The Bone Orchard Mythos, right? This is
Okay.
a series of books that Jeff and Andrea Sorrentino have been doing the last couple of years. It started
Hmm.
off with 10,000 Black Feathers. Then they did, um, they did well, they've done a whole line of these books. If you just look up Bone Orchard Mythos, you'll see that they've done Tenement. That was the last one. They started off with
Okay.
10,000 feathers, then they went to Tenement, which was basically what Evil Dead Rise. Did you see that movie?
I have not seen Evil Dead Rise.
Okay, the Evil Dead Rise where it takes place in the apartment building.
Hmm. That's the
And you
most
probably
recent
seen
one,
the
right?
trailers. Yeah, it was like the most recent one.
Yeah.
This is kind of like that on a much higher level. Jeff, I am not a horror person. I do not like horror. I'm not somebody who sits there online wanting to watch every scary movie. Kind of makes it a little difficult for me to sleep. But when it's well written and well crafted and just makes like the hairs on your neck stand up, and
Hmm.
it's not blatantly in your face horror, and it's just like creepy and kind of gets your mind going. That I like, and Jeff does an amazing job with this. So he started. It feels like his stories started at a ground level, right? Is the first story he did was, it was called, I believe, The Hole or The Well, where he had a person investigating this hole in the earth, and
The
just going down
Passageway.
the passageway. There we go. Thank you. And it started off there. So it's just this tightly crammed story where he's like, where is this hole leading to? What is down here? And just creepiness ensues. It took place from there. This 10,000 black feathers. He kind of expands this world of the Bone Orchard mythos. It then goes to this tenement building, this great 10 issue story where these demons or something is haunting this entire building and affecting everybody in the building, and everybody has their own story going on in the apartment building, and everybody's experiencing the phenomenon in different ways, and then the way it just all culminates in the end. And now we're getting off planet, right? The next story is going to be called Starseed. And Jeff and Andrea, they've just been telling their story the way they wanted to tell it. So you've gotten, like, the story started with like a free comic book day preview. Then
Yeah.
it was a graphic novel. Then it was like a 6 issue miniseries, and then a 10 issue miniseries, and now we're going back to another graphic novel. So even though this is a starting off as a graphic novel, it's not something that's previously been collected. This is just where
It's a
their
bit of an
story starts.
unorthodox bit of release, how they've been releasing these stories.
Yes.
I mean, seemingly intentionally, and intentionally, having them kind of broken up in these different ways, almost to sort of dictate the pace of how fast these stories go.
Yeah.
They said they
Exactly.
were this approach was inspired by the works of David Lynch, told so it could be told
Who was also
chronologically. Yeah, and I think of Lemire as one of the most cerebral writers I've ever read. Some of the
right.
stories that we've covered here have been much more in the mind than on the paper.
Right.
What he invokes there is meant to sit with you in many ways, good. And I'm assuming with this horror stuff, possibly even bad, with
Yeah.
some of the spookier concepts. Yeah,
No, I mean, I've literally had to read some of this stuff in the daylight. Like, I've started some of this stuff at night,
yeah.
and I'm home all by myself, and I'll start hearing those little creaks and clutters, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna close it. I'm gonna read a fun Spider-Man issue, and then put myself to sleep, and then I'll continue this in the morning with the sun out
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he really does tap into that. Like, if you, one thing I would love for us to cover eventually one day is Gideon Falls. That was
I've heard amazing things about Gideon Falls, but I'm not aware of
creepy,
it at all.
creepy, creepy story that took place over like 50 issues. It was so freaking creepy. I
27.
Yeah, it was 27 issues. It felt like 50
27
issues,
issues.
but it was
That's good. That's
27
always the best, right? When these
creepy,
things are like freaking
creepy
novels.
issues, man. It was so creepy. Lots of
Issue 27 was an 80-page issue.
There you go. There you go. And most of the issues, I believe, were like a solid 32 pages, not ads, not full
Chunky.
of crap, like
Chunky.
chunks.
Yeah. Okay.
And the way Andrea just draws, he's able to, if you feel like a lot of that book takes place like him, or the characters going through junk and going through like other worlds and dealing with like these nasty, nasty bugs, that I remember reading it and just feeling like, oh, I gotta go take a shower now. This is gross. So if you've been enjoying what he's been doing, but if you're not aware of what's been going on, this is a jumping on point, guys. And if you love the idea of like horror in space, if you love Aliens, Predator, Event Horizon, I guarantee you what the story he's telling here with now this Bone Orchard mythos going up to space and I believe Mars, whew, we're gonna be tackling some fun, just creepy outer space horror now.
Yeah.
Get
Cosmic
get
horror.
on board. Get on board.
Yeah, Lemire, like I said, is always a writer to follow. He always has something to say. The idea that he would continue anything, like we saw with the Ascender and Descender stuff, he doesn't continue things to muddy around. He continues things to say something, to have a story, and to tell it. I'm looking at the Gideon Falls stuff here. Gideon Falls won the Eisner Award for Best New Series, and it was also in 2018 supposedly picked up for a television series. So we might be seeing that being developed soon. But that was also 6 years ago. Who knows what happens when things come and go. I have full. I'd give my kid to Jeff Lemire. I have full respect, trust in him and Andrea are a terrific creative team. Uh, they know what they want from each other, and that it always shows up on the paper, on the page, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm super excited for this. I didn't know this was a thing. I might have to do Gideon Falls before I start this Blood Orchard thing, but um, horror in the comic space has always interested me because um, of how far it can go without going. It's very much like horror in film where you don't always have to show everything.
No.
I think specifically, I don't know if you've ever read this. Like one of the things I was like, oh wait, comics can do this. It was a Batman Black Mirror where it's revealed that
James
yeah,
Gordon's
James
son
Gordon
is a serial
Jr. is
killer.
yeah, he's a psychopath, and
Yeah,
it's filmed like a horror movie majority of the
yeah,
time. We're giving him the anime eyes. You can't see his glasses and stuff. They
hmm
do a lot of that kind of stuff, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, this is a scary Batman comic, not just like the whole like oh Joker's a clown and he's put clownfish everywhere kind of
right.
thing, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
like with the pacing of a horror. It just kind of shows you how sometimes we have such a closed idea of what these comics can be as far as genre. And you were talking about the Comics Code. We got to find a way to cover this, but we are about 60 year removed from the creation of the Comics Code. This very
Ooh.
year, this very year, it forced a lot of innovation, is what I'll say. I'm very interested in what how we even managed to even make comics with some of the rules that they put out, you know. And one of the comics I knew they would never be able to make is a little comic called Sex Criminals. Listen, I already told I tell this joke often. I tell people, it's hard to recommend Sex Criminals because you can't just say that out loud. I like Sex Criminals. Hey, I love Sex Criminals. You know what I love? Some Sex
Great,
Criminals.
great.
I need to show you some Sex Criminals, and they'll make your life. None of that sounds great, but simultaneously, as a comic reader and as a growing adult, this book found me in a way that showed that both sex and comics don't have to be this very closet, not a closed-minded thing that I thought that it had to be. And I'm reading Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky, and those guys are hilarious. Like they're just really good at making like kind of piffy, punchy dialogue and stuff. But then it deals with like ideas of sex and repressive ideas of sex and how we use it to communicate and how we use it to tell value and all this other kind of stuff also in this very crazy world. Now what this has allowed for is a group of the fandom to write some of the most entertaining letters to the editor under the sun. Things asking about sex tips, things suggesting to add sex things in there. Some very R-rated appreciation for some of the stuff in this book. And yeah, if you guys haven't, I would suggest reading Sex Criminals up front. But my last pick is Sex Criminals Letter Daddies. It's a
Mm.
compilation of all the letters to the editor, or the best letters to the editor that were written under this run. And it's just, to me, this is the peak of comics when reader meets creator and is so inspired they have to create a dialogue about it. And not only that, it's creating a dialogue around one of the most taboo subjects in dialogue in history. People don't like to talk about sex. They don't talk about. You shouldn't talk about sex, which makes us a lot of us walking around here blind, uninformed. But the idea that they could bring this to the forefront, um, I think is interesting. I think it's important, and I can't wait because it's also in celebration of the 10-year anniversary of the book Sex Criminals.
Mm.
So not only is it a celebration, but the book itself, even though on the face of it may seem ridiculous, is incredibly heartfelt. It's so heartfelt, and so are each and every one of the readers and writers who would go in and write some of these letters for the letters to the editor section. So totally wanted to put that out there. I want people to go out there and read Sex Criminals. Again, I'm still working on a uh, way to say that I like this book. I like SC. I can't even say that. That doesn't even sound great.
I think you have to preface it by saying I enjoy Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky's book, Sex Criminals.
Yes, 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 yes. Dot dot dot. Sex criminals. Yes, yes, yes.
No, I had no idea this was even coming out. I'm actually curious as to where you found the solicitation for this book because I can't find it.
I gave must have been Image, but Chip Zdarsky also posted it on his Substack.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Um,
cool stuff.
but
But I
I love this book, and it's another book that was supposed to be optioned for a series or something, and it never, to my knowledge, it never came to fruition.
That's a whole quick note on that. There was a point in time where everything was being optioned, and it was almost like the TV production companies were just grabbing stuff up because they were seeing it probably as, oh, look, MCU is big, the DCU is big, so we're gonna just grab up the rights for everything and anything we can and see what hits. But now that it seems like that's mostly in the downturn of of popularity, it, I would imagine a lot of these companies are just holding on to those rights just to say they have them, and if something strikes up, then they'll make those things. But for right now, I think they're just holding
This in
the line.
particular, I will get territorial over. Like this needs a good creative team that gets sort of that piffy, sort of the comedy, but also the heartfelt nature of it. I think that you can't be caught. Uh, if you don't have the creative tools to go to the top of the top of the tool shelf, I don't think you can play around with this book.
And not just that, but I would not want to see this somehow, some way, even end up on a lesser cable channel, if you know what I mean, like an
Yeah, yeah,
FX
yeah.
or
A
sci-fi.
free V or whatever, like one of those
Yeah, yeah,
sort
yeah. Like
of.
this should be a an HBO series, even an
Totally.
Amazon, even an Amazon series. Because Amazon, like if Amazon handles the boys beautifully, so they could handle this. So it has to be on something like that with top tier creators who are going to also respect the source material and even, hey, get, Matt and Chip in on the action as well. So
Yeah, I don't
this
know
needs
if
that.
yeah, have you read all Sex Criminals?
I still have volume one sitting on my shelf.
I have to finish because they went on a very long hiatus.
They did. They did.
I want to say it stopped at 27. I have to go back and finish that portion of it. But there's a part in which they are discussing a woman who is a porn star, and they are having difficulties trying to characterize her in a way that humanizes her, but also deals with the industry and stuff. And the entire comic stops, and it becomes Chip Zdarsky talking to Matt Fraction, like calling him up in panels. Hey, bro, listen, I'm tackling the story, and I really want to make this seem respectful, but whatever. And I want to say Chip's calling Matt. Matt is in a mink, and he's counting money. And Matt's like, come on, bro, whatever, whatever. I think they know that we're not malicious people, and we wouldn't be trying to, whatever. I'll see if I can find it for you. But it's like things like that, like
Right.
they're
Right.
so endearing that they even bring that conversation to the reader. Like, trust me, we had those
That's dope.
conversations behind closed doors about trying to make all this stuff, be respectful, be adult, and still be something. Like I said, you would think Amazon would be biting for something like this. HBO would be biting for something like this. I think the only thing that's coloring this wrong is that it's a comic book. And right now, that word in general is a touchy word, right? Especially right now with the quote unquote superhero fatigue and things not 100% landing all the time. But man, if you want to make some money, you put the trailer of the people who orgasm and can freeze time on 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 your television. Tell me people are not gonna just go run up there and try to watch it. You need
That's
like
right.
creative minds like Seth Rogen, like get kind of like that kind of sort of,
Exactly.
that sort of kind of
Exactly.
feel on it, and I think it could do really well.
You time travel and sex.
Come on, bro. One of those is easier than the other, and it's not the time travel. But yeah, I'm glad that we were able to get all of these August picks up. You're gonna be seeing us in these very same clothes as we do tackle our September picks. Gwink. as we tackle our September picks for 2024. But I want to thank you, all you guys who've been on this journey with us. Major previews. Some of these books, like I said, were things that were not on my radar, have become on my radar. Some of these writers are now some of my favorites. Some of these artists are now people that I look for, and that's the journey that we go through with these comic books. Instead of I mean, you can always be excited for the next big Hall H or the next big, sort of D23 announcements and a whole slate of movies that we may never see. I'm looking at you, Blade, in Armor Wars, whatever the hell's going on over there.
I've never heard of
Ah,
those.
why are all the titles of a particular ethnicity stalling all of a sudden? What's going on over there, Disney? Figure that out. And while you do, we'll be over here reading the good stuff from everyone underneath the sun. There you go. Look at that. Already got his copy of Uncanny X-Men #1.
No. This is the
Oh,
previews.
that's what it
This
says.
is
Oh, that's previews. Only previews. Only previews. And that's all we
just
do here.
previews.
As far as major previews is preview. We try not to spoil. We try to give you guys a look through the door into the future as some of the latest greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. But if you'd like to help support us, you can go to patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse, and for little as 10 cents a day, $3 a month, you can help us afford the hardware and the software that we need to keep providing you guys content free of charge. We do this once a month, and we do the Major Issues podcast once a week. We are closing in on episode 350 very, very soon, so check out for that. We'll be covering the trial of Jean Grey very soon, so go ahead and check that out. Fun stuff. And we'll be covering all the things that have to do with comics as we continue this preview series. But my name is George Serrano, aka The Don.
I'm Alex Garcia, aka The Cog.
And this has been Major Previews for the month of August. Check out these books. Support your local comic book stores. Go make some friends. Go recommend some books. Comic books is a love language, each in and of itself. And always remember that you, yes, you, are worthy.